Hello and welcome to Odds on Champions League Match Day 8, last games in the group phase in the Champions League, and we are going to split the video, so if you are not finding your match, go and check the other one, because here in Oddspedia we are going to analyze every single game in this thrilling Wednesday in Europe. So for this video, we have Alain Valnegri, we have Leo Bachanian in competition later with Tom and Ronan. We are going to see who is right with his tips. So guys, stay tuned. Let's analyze everything, because there is something to play for in every single game. So let me know in the comments, what do you think? And of course, don't forget to press the like, to subscribe. And now let's go on with the show. Well, first game in this video is Ajax Olympiacos, and here both teams try to qualify for the playoffs. For Ajax is almost impossible despite winning in Villarreal. I don't have the percentage here, but I'm sure it's almost non-existent. Whereas Olympiacos are in the last spot, 8 points. They were able to beat Leverkusen last week. They also won in Almaty before that. So the bookies place Olympiacos, Alain, slightly favorites, I guess, because they have indeed options to qualify, so they will be boosted. But away from home, we saw them also conceding many goals in Barcelona and against Arsenal.
Warning, because Ajax, since they changed the manager, Ajax changed totally his results. Only one defeat in the last 2 months against ACCA. Yes, 6-0, but it's except that game, they don't suffer any defeat. Now, with a victory, in my opinion, is really difficult to imagine Ajax qualify, because the goal average is negative, especially for the goal received, and there must to score a lot of goals against Olympiacos. But I think Ajax will be competitive against Olympiacos. Yes, Olympiacos is not his best season, because we saw in Super League in Greece suffering to win some games. They're already second in spite of that have one match less, but we don't saw the best version in Greek Cup that went out against PAOK. Yes, it's difficult to imagine for me Olympiacos qualify. In my opinion, Ajax will be proud, will catch a positive results and try to arrive to 9 points, and Olympiacos will be attacked. It means victory about one of both team and goals. I choose 1 or X in the game with over 2.5 goals, odds 1.95.
Okay, our smart bet tool, Leo, giving more chances to Olympiacos, since they have the chance to qualify. They are putting full-time result Olympiacos, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if both are out of the Champions League.
Yeah, that could be as well a final scenario after the 90 minutes, Edu. But at the same time, Juventus, after the 6-1 with Barcelona, after the defeat with Arsenal, it didn't seem very likely that we were going to see Olympiacos with this, if it's not realistic, at least with a chance of getting a playoff spot. They are close in the standing. It's really a case of in which a win could do it, although we also going to have to start doing the math as well, no, in terms of like goal difference, as Alain was mentioning, because they're gonna have to see how Napoli, Athletic Bilbao, Copenhagen and doing. Also, maybe a point could do for them, depending again on other results. 7 points collected from the last 12 in play with those 2 consecutive wins. They had against Kairat and against Bayern Leverkusen. Before those wins, there were like 10 games without a win in the Champions League, Olympiacos. So things have clearly improved lately for them. Impossible not to think some regret for those draws, especially in that debut 0-0 with Paphos, and they had another one with PSV, and both of them at home for Olympiacos. They had 𝐿𝐵𝐵𝐿 back from AFCON against Leverkusen, although he only played the last 15 minutes. Taremi scored again, 2 goals and 1 assist for him in the last 4 Champions League matches. But Ajax is enjoying probably the best moment of the season with that only defeat, as Alain mentioned, in the last 2 months against AZ Alkmaar. Also at the back of 2 consecutive wins for them. A bit too late, the resurrection for them in the Champions League. And between them and Olympiacos, they have 7 teams. So yes, it's impossible for me to see Ajax getting any chance of a playoff spot. I expect goals here because both of them need to win, with the Olympiacos having a little bit more realistic chance than Ajax. So for me, second half goals over 1.5 in a game which I expect to open up quite a lot in the second half. Second half goals over 1.5, odds of 1.91.
We should see goals indeed, since Olympiacos need to win, and Ajax, if they want to find the miracle also, they need to win, and plenty of goals. It would be almost a miracle for them to qualify. Also, we saw a brave Olympiacos in this Champions League going forward, so it's not a defensive team, or we haven't seen a defensive team. If we check the over 2.5 goals for this game is only 1.69, so of course the bookies also expect goals. Next one, and I have to say that I said at the beginning that there is something to play for in every game. Not in this one. Arsenal, Kairat, Almaty, because Arsenal are going to top this Champions League, but there is something to play for. They could do the perfect group phase, winning every single game, which is a huge success. Only 2 goals conceded after winning also in San Siro. I guess it's time for rotation for Arteta, especially after losing against Man United in the Premier League. They should focus there in the next month. And well, Leo, we saw that Kairat don't have the level to play in the Champions League, but it was already a success knocking out Celtic in August. And yeah, they have the prize to say goodbye to this competition at the Emirates.
Yes, of course, it's going to be the end of a season in the Champions League for Kairat that will always be in their memory. So there is nothing to regret and all to celebrate and to remember for Kairat. And for Arsenal, I will say something. I don't know if Alain or you, Edu, as well says the same, but for me, the priority this season for Arsenal should be the Premier League. And not only because I'm saying this after a defeat with Manchester United, but that should be the real focus for them if they want to build something for the future, I believe. And yes, they know they're going to top the league stage already. They know that means they're going to play at home every single second leg on the road to the final. If they make it to the final, they've been at times, so they are probably so far still the best team in Europe, not only because of what the standings are saying, but because they've been the most consistent home and away. Probably what happened on Sunday was just an accident, although I do believe that this Arsenal is having problems in the creativity department. You just cannot rely on set pieces again and again and again. They're going to need something more, and they have something more. That's the issue for me. We are talking about probably the only team in Europe with 2 players per position. Every single one of those 2 players per position will be a starter, probably in 15 teams at least in the Premier League. So that's why I will always expect a little bit more from this Arsenal. Although, what can we say when they are anyway topping the standings, when they scored 20 goals and they just conceded 2 in 7 games played. They even have got 𝐿𝐭𝐴 back scoring against Inter on Matchday 7. They got Gabriel Jesus as well in San Siro, looking close to his best after his injury struggles. All the while they're still waiting for Havertz to recover. So much competition, of course, leaves talented players asking for minutes, like 𝐿𝐴 who left on loan for Marseille, and it took him only 13 minutes to show how good he is. But I don't think we're going to see anyone else departing this this week. Of course, it's all about Arsenal in here, so my take, Arsenal to win 2-0, combined with the Arsenal half-time, full-time market, these two together, odds of 1.95.
Well, I agree with Leo. It's mandatory, I think, for Arteta's project to win the Premier League. It would be a bonus to win the Champions League for the very first time in Arsenal history, Alain, and now it's time to focus indeed in the Premier League and forget for 1 month in Europe.
Yes, because the biggest difference, I think, is if Arsenal don't win the Premier League, Arsenal will lose the Premier League. In Champions League, it's impossible to ask to win a Champions League like a priority, because a lot of things can happen. You have the draw, you have the moment of form. It's impossible. The Premier League, after 5 months competition, Arsenal is the strongest team, and they're must to win this Premier League. I think yesterday it was an accident against Man United. In Milano, I saw a really strong team with a big management about the key moment of the game. And winning in Milano is not so easy, and especially scoring 3 goals. And yes, it's still my favorite for Champions League, but a lot of things can happen. In Premier League, I can't imagine Arsenal don't win that because yes, it's the strongest team, and in my opinion, Man City and Aston Villa can follow the rhythm about Arsenal. 𝐻𝐿 was his historical season for them. 𝐻𝐿 didn't play an official game in his league since end of October. In January, only they played in Champions League. It's difficult for them because to try to have the rhythm, you go to play in London against Arsenal is not a gift. I choose like similar odds like Leo. I choose no both team to score with over 2.5 goals. Odds 2.05.
Yes, indeed, Kairat not to score in this one. Well, much more on stake in the next one, Monaco. Juventus, especially for Monaco, 9 points. So if they lose, they can drop and they cannot qualify for the playoffs. For Juventus, 12 points is going to be very difficult for them to climb into the top 8, but still they have a chance. They have to win and perhaps win by a good margin. Alain, perhaps we saw one of the best games for Juventus this season, 3-0 against Napoli. Could have been even more. They had plenty of chances. The team has changed under Spalletti. That's for sure. And we saw them also beating Benfica before that last week. And it's the opposite for Monaco. We saw a pitiful Monaco, especially defensively at the Bernabeu. Again, they couldn't beat Le Havre in France. So I guess we should look at Juventus to win here.
It's really favorite for the moment of form, for the squad. It's curious because Juventus from Napoli to Napoli, no? 11 games ahead, Juventus lose in Napoli in Serie A, and everybody said yes, Spalletti is not the right manager, Spalletti, etc. Juventus is not the squad can be compete for the Scudetto, etc., etc., etc. And 11 games after, we saw another team in individual perspective, in collective perspective. We saw a team with clear idea, with rhythm, with passion. Yesterday, it is probably the best game for Juve since Spalletti arrived in the bench. The feeling are pretty good. And yes, it is difficult for Juve to catch a spot in the first 8, but Juventus will try, and Spalletti must to try a lot of things. He must to recover some player. David, yesterday we saw the best David since he arrived to Torino. Locatelli play in a wonderful level, like in the Euro 2021 when Italia won the Euro. But now maybe 𝐿𝐵𝐵𝐵 must to recover. Thuram play in a really high level. Yes, it's a good moment for Juve. It's not a good moment for Monaco. Monaco is in a trouble. We don't understand exactly what happened in that vestiary. The team are really far about the goal to catch a spot in Champions League in Ligue 1, and yes, against Juventus, it is important for them to try to qualify and stay in the first 24 that have 1 point more, but warning, because some teams probably will be win, and in front of a defeat, Monaco can be stay out. And the positive things for Monaco in Champions League, we saw the best version of Monaco in some games against Galatasaray, against Man City. We saw a competitive Monaco like the first part of the last season. But in my opinion, is not enough. Juve is really favorite. In my opinion, Juve victory is a value bet. I choose Juve winning odds 2.25.
The thing, Leo, is probably with Juve winning is not going to be enough to be in the top 8. They need a lot of teams to drop points. And Monaco, indeed, with a defeat, is very likely that they are out. It all depends of a lot of results anyway.
Yes, and that's why in this one, I wasn't thinking straight away when I saw the fixture that we're going to have to do this one for our shot. I was not thinking of goals, to be honest, because with Juventus already securing a playoff spot, Monaco needing a point at least, a draw could do for both here. Yeah, Juventus could reach 15 points if they win and then dream with the top 8, but they have another 6 teams in front of them. It's very difficult to say the least. It had to be their midfielders once again rescuing Juventus against Benfica with Thuram and McKennie scoring. Against Napoli, they had 𝐜𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐶𝐜 and 𝐶𝐿𝐵𝐵𝐵 scoring as well. Although, and I agree with Alain, was probably the best game for Jonathan David, and not only because he scored the opener. McKennie has already 3 goals in the Champions League, one of the best players so far for Spalletti and for Juventus this season. He started as a right winger with Benfica, but the best of him and the best of Juventus came in the second half when he moved inside and he started to move between the lines. It was a tense week. Match day 7 for Juventus. Spalletti arguing with the supporter. Spalletti slapping Openda and asking him to wake up, but they deserved the 3 points. I think the tension was understandable as well, despite Spalletti turning it around after taking over from Tudor. He managed to put Juventus in the right path very, very quickly. But I'm saying it was understandable because it was a must win against Benfica. And because Juventus, not only from a sporting perspective, but from a financial one, they need to keep advancing in this competition and they need to finish in the top 4 in Serie A. This Juventus with Benfica did better with 𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐶𝐜 in the second half. 𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐶 that started also against Napoli. We will see if now with Monaco is him or Miretti next to 𝐬𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐶 behind Jonathan David. And now this Monaco, I don't think that they were so bad, even though they were trashed by Real Madrid in 6-1. They made Courtois work many times in that game. At home, they won 1 of their 3 games, but it was a crucial one against Galatasaray. That was 1-0, and as I said, I expect another goals under here. That's why my take is goals under 2.5, odds of 2.1.
Next game is also very important. Athletic Sporting 10th with 13 points. They need to win to try to go to the top 8. It would be very likely, actually, if they win to qualify in the top 8, since we have PSG, Newcastle, both also with 13 points. And Athletic need to win to secure a spot in the playoffs. It would be the first time in their history Leo, to play a Champions League knockout game. So everyone is enthusiastic about it in Bilbao. No one believed about it, but they won in Bergamo 2-3. They are having a lot of problems in La Liga, but somehow it's going to be a great atmosphere. They all remember the semifinals in the Europa League against Sporting some years ago. But we are seeing a very good Sporting in the Champions League, beating PSG, also competing against Bayern Munich. So how do you see this one? It's tough, in my opinion, to predict.
Yes, and it's a good one to watch. And Athletic is definitely one of the stories of the last few match days, positioning themselves in this playoff spot when things weren't looking very positive for them. But the Sporting Lisbon is not just the story of the last few match days. It's probably one of the stories of this league stage. To see them 10th is really impressive. Athletic win from behind in Bergamo was impressive too, and now depend on themselves in this last match day. And the game in Italy started the worst possible way for Athletic. They were looking shaky at the back, conceding after just 15 minutes of the game, and from there until half-time, Atalanta could have even extend their lead. They hit the post. They had a goal disallowed for offside. Unai Simon was called into action many times. Second half was completely different. And with a tweak from Valverde, he changed from 3 at the back to 4. And then in a space of just 15 minutes, they turned all around. Nico Serrano scored the third one just seconds after coming on into the game. Serrano was included as well in the squad against Atalanta, despite having just recovered from an injury, and his impact proved very decisive. Every time he's used as a sub, he brings something to this Athletic. We have been saying that this, or at least myself, that it has been a mediocre season for Athletic. Of course, injuries have to be taken into account. They don't have the Iñaki brothers available. But to have managed to get into this final day depending on themselves, I think is the best that happened to Athletic Bilbao this season so far. And Sporting has based their position on their home form, winning all 4 games they had in that condition. Of course, providing the shock of match day 7 with that 2-1 against PSG. They needed luck, of course, to beat the champions because they suffer a lot. PSG had 3 goals disallowed for offsides or for fouls. They had 28 shots, but the Sporting took the best out of poor display from Chevalier in goal. Luis Suarez already have paid back the 20 million Sporting paid to Almeria. He has 4 goals this Champions League, 17 in 19 matches in Primera Liga for him. Away from home, Sporting has the 1-1 in Turin as the best result, although I think they did well with Napoli and with Bayern, and in both games, Sporting scored first in those two defeats. I don't see Athletic here as favorites, or at least not as much as the bookies. My take is a Sporting double chance. A Sporting double chance 1.75.
Going for the away team, it's going to be a special game, I'm sure. Alain, in San Mamés, we know the atmosphere in this stadium.
Yes, always. And we can ask about the motivation about Athletic in the last game in Sevilla. And they have the focus to this game. It's a strange season for Athletic because we saw a team not very competitive in Liga. We saw an Athletic in Champions League with alternate results because I am not totally positive with the champions of Athletic. Because the draw against PSG dominated the game clearly, and at Bergamo, I don't know what happened with Atalanta in the second half, but Atalanta have 20 crazy minutes where Atalanta disappeared totally of the game, and Athletic was concrete to score that goal and bring a victory. We don't expected that. In change, Sporting this season, or in the last, since Amorim arrived in the bench in Sporting, Sporting is the most competitive Portuguese team right now, more than Oporto and more than Benfica in European competition. And they lose in Nápoles, a game when they deserve something more. In Munich, they do a brilliant first half, and they score first. And in my opinion, Sporting want to take a revenge about the semi-final in 2012 when Athletic eliminate in the semi-final of Europa League. Right now, Athletic have some injury player. Sporting not so much. Player will be lose this game. In my opinion, some Sporting have something more. Maybe San Mamés can make a magical night and Athletic can win the game. But right now, with my analysis, I think I choose double chance like Leo with over 1.5 goals, odds 2.20.
Okay, you both trust Sporting in San Mamés. Next one, another Spanish team, Atlético de Madrid at home against Bodo Glimt. The Norwegian team still with some options to qualify. They would need to win here after the big surprise of beating Man City in the cold stadium and on artificial grass. But this is, I would say, even more difficult to win at the Metropolitano against Atlético de Madrid. They need to win and score plenty of goals because they are only in +3 and also with 13 points if they want to get into the top 8. We saw again at the weekend, Alain, how strong this team is playing at home. If Atlético are playing in the Metropolitano, it's almost a safe bet backing them to win.
Yes, Atletico in the Metropolitan this season, they're really strong. Only victory and a draw against Elche at the beginning of the season. But Atletico is really favorite. We know Bodo Glimt is doing his Champions League. Bodo, yes, can be maybe have some option, but maybe 1%. That must to win. In Atletico, they must to score because they have a negative goal average and waiting about another results. Right now is utopical to see Bodo Glimt save the category. Yes, Bodo Glimt against Manchester City surprised a lot of people. I don't know if we must be surprised because what was the grade of motivation of Man City to play there? And at home, Bodo Glimt signs that win his first Norwegian league is really difficult. We saw a lot of big team lose there. Remember the Roma of Mourinho lose with 5 goals. Now when they played away is another team. Now Atletico need that victory. Atletico is a good moment to unlike Julián Álvarez. Julián Álvarez don't score a goal since the beginning of December in Eindhoven. Is a lot. Álvarez is not only a goal, but for a striker, it's important to score and quit the voice about the bad Spanish news. Journalist said, yes, he's in a crisis. He's thinking about Barcelona. No, Julián Álvarez must to score, and it is a very good moment for him. At home, Atletico really strong. We said that score a lot of goals, but against that, Bodo Glimt maybe they can receive to a goal. I choose Atletico winning with both teams to score odds 2.30.
It's a good team going offensively, Bodo Glimt, and they have nothing to lose, Leo. So perhaps it's a good idea and go for goals in this game.
Yeah, I do expect them to be honest, and with Atletico Madrid being the favorite here, playing at home, they won all of them in that condition. Actually, it's a mess of their own in the one they are, not being able to be in the top 8 on this last Matchday, especially because of the away form. 2 draws and 2 defeats, PSV, Galatasaray, and then those 2 defeats against Liverpool and Arsenal. They will need a hand from Napoli, a hand from PSG, a hand from Athletic. It's not just that they need a win, and also it needs to be a win with a goal difference because Atletico loses with everyone in that regards except Atalanta, City, Sporting, Chelsea, Newcastle, Barca. They all have a better goal difference than this Atletico. And because Bodo also dreams with their chances of making it to the playoff. I do expect an open game here, or at least I do expect goals in this Atlético Bodo. 𝐿𝐿𝐵𝐻𝐿 said before Galatasaray that 4 points in the last 2 match games won't be enough. So we will see if his prophecy becomes reality. Before the 3-0 against Mallorca on Sunday, before that, Giuliano's goal against Galatasaray was just the 5th goal in the last 5 matches for Atletico. They had 85 shots on goal in those 5 games. That means 17 shots per game to score 1. This is not just down to strikers, but of course puts down the magnifying glasses on Julian Alvarez, as Alain was mentioning. I said last week that 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲 could leave this winter, but he gave an interview in the last few days saying that he won't go anywhere. On Sunday he came from the bench and scored a beauty, to be honest, from inside the box. Simeone has Lenglet back as well with the squad. Lenormand is having minutes back again after injury. I believe Atletico has enough to pass Bodo, despite this Bodo providing, of course, the biggest surprise of the league stage, or one of them, against Manchester City at home last match day, which was actually their only win at home this season. On the road, they rescue a point in 2 of their 3 matches, but this time it won't count for anything. A draw for Bodo might take here Atletico to win combined with goals over 2.5, these two together 1.78.
Atletico screw it up a little bit against Galatasaray. Last week, Barcelona have better options to reach the top 8 since they are just below Chelsea. They are in position 9, and we have a direct clash between PSG and Newcastle, +5 for Barcelona, so they also expect to score plenty of goals against Copenhagen. I guess Copenhagen will park the bus, but they have 8 points. Leo, they have still also options to qualify, but they would need to win at the Camp Nou. I guess another game where we should see plenty of goals.
Yeah, it should happen, Eduardo, as well. I expect goals here. But the proposal for Copenhagen to play Barca away, needing a win or a point, was always more than tricky. But with this Barca... Again?
Park the bus, perhaps?
Yes, and they have to. But at the same time, if they need to dream with something, they need to be a little bit more adventurous. But we will see. But this should be as well an interesting one. And every time I see Fermin Lopez guys playing, I cannot believe that Chelsea decided to splash 40 million euros in Garnacho, who probably won't be a starter for more than half of the teams in the Premier League, rather than using it for Barca's midfielder. He ran the show with Olmo in Prague against Slavia. He's in double digits already in 24 games in all competition this season, Fermin. 10 goals and 10 assists. His GPS in the box, his quality to shoot from outside of the box. I think he would have been the closest to Frank Lampard than Chelsea supporters who have seen in many years. But anyway, it was far from perfect from Barca in Prague. They again started sleeping the game, conceding after 10 minutes, and that should be something that they should be looking at against Copenhagen, because Copenhagen is not a Slavia. And then they allow again Slavia to equalize after they managed to be 2-1 before halftime. Slavia Praga, that before facing Barca, they scored 2 goals in 6 matches, and then in 35 minutes they scored 2 against this Barca. There was a good introduction, as has been all season, I would say, from Marcus Rashford, providing one of the assists. Lamine did not play in Prague, but he played against Oviedo, and then he scored also a beauty, and he will start against Copenhagen. We will see if Bardghji has his chance of facing his former team. So I think those defensive lapses that we usually get from Barca should give this Copenhagen a lifeline to dream, but still I can't see them making it in Catalonia. With Oviedo, Barca showed something which I mentioned last show about Bayern. They can put you to sleep in a goal rush. They scored twice in 5 minutes against Oviedo to already start thinking on Wednesday night. And for Copenhagen, the hopes were kept alive against Napoli, despite them playing with 10 men for almost an hour. But I think this is it for them. My take, Barcelona to score in both halves, combined with goals over 3.5, these two together, odds of 2.45.
The question mark, Alain, is if Copenhagen are going to try or just sit deep and park the bus, and it's going to be slightly more difficult for Barcelona, a team that enjoys a lot spaces and running.
Yes, we hope it will not raining for the journalist in Camp Nou next Wednesday. But yes, in spite of that, we saw a Barca. Yes, Barca is quite relaxed when they played at home. We saw a team have some limits, in my opinion, when they're must to play against the strongest team who dominate the transition. That one can be the limit of Barca. But right now they deserve to be leader in Liga because they're doing better than Real Madrid, but they concede stupid point and they have only 1 point difference with Madrid. In the content, in my opinion, Barcelona and Madrid, the gap is bigger than 1 point. But Barcelona sometimes they have some lapsus or they disappear to the game, and after is difficult for them to recover. Copenhagen is not playing in official competition right now. Against Napoli, is more Napoli lose 2 points than Copenhagen catch a point or deserve to catch a point. Napoli permits to Copenhagen to stay in the game, to go back in the game, and I see a Copenhagen with the same problem than we saw in Danish league and since the beginning of the competition. Barca at home in the last 3 games against Oviedo, against Osasuna, and Eintracht Frankfurt, they suffered to score in the first half. And I choose under 1.5 goals in the first half, odds 2.00.
All right, they were not pushing a lot against Oviedo, almost walking, and it was enough for them to beat them. And next one is Leverkusen, Villarreal. Villarreal out, penultimate in the standings, only 1 point, like Kairat, dreadful Champions League for them. Yeah. And Leverkusen need to win then, because they have 9 points with a win. Alain, they will go directly to the playoffs. It's only 1.6. Even if they are not in the best moment of the season, on the contrary, actually, but it's a must win for them. They have to win.
Yes, with which team Villarreal will present in Leverkusen. Villarreal is not in a good, probably the most difficult moment for Villarreal. The next weekend they played against Osasuna, after against Espanyol. 1 month ago, everybody was okay to say, yes, Villarreal will be catch a Champions League spot. Right now, warning, because they start to lose so many points. Problem with the goal in the last 3 games, only 1 goal score, and the grade of motivation is totally for Leverkusen. Leverkusen start back the 2026, but after against Werder Bremen, we saw a reaction about the team to catch an important victory. They're still in the fight for a Champions League spot. They need to qualify. Leverkusen must to consolidate that place they have, and they need a victory, because with a defeat, maybe Leverkusen can be lose his point in the top 24 in this Champions League. Yes, Villarreal is a mystery. Yeah? Only 1 point. Especially in the first part of the season in Liga, we saw a good version of Villarreal that deserved to be third. There was better in Liga than Atlético Madrid, and but yes, in Champions League, yes, sometimes there have some season where in Champions League the team suffer a lot. In my opinion, Leverkusen really favorite. I choose Leverkusen double chance 1x with both teams to score. I think Villarreal will score in Germany, odds 2.00.
Untouchable, I guess, this Villarreal, Leo, in the Champions League or not?
I wouldn't say no. Of course, it's a dreadful campaign. I agree absolutely with you and with Alain. There's nothing to say. It's just looking at the standings, the same than Kairat. But I don't see it that Leverkusen is a much better team than Villarreal, and Villarreal is having an amazing campaign. They both find more comfort in their domestic form. Even Leverkusen, although they can qualify now to a playoff spot, at least in this Champions League, with Villarreal being fourth in La Liga, Leverkusen 4 points behind the Champions League spots in the Bundesliga. But on the weekend, they won the first win in a game in 2026, Leverkusen. They lost all their games up to Saturday. Yes, they did it with 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲 scoring. Also, I think against Bremen, they started their oldest 11 of the season, almost 29 years old, the average of the starting 11 for Leverkusen, which means that they're hoping that the experience would help them, will change their fortunes around. There was positive news with Ezequiel Palacios returning to the bench after several months out injured. For Villarreal, the weekend meant that they could not cut the gap with Real Madrid and with Barca, but a defeat with Real, I mean, is nothing that will annoy anyone, I guess. The bad news, of course, of Juan Foyth's injury, which leaves him out of the season, out of the chance of competing for a place in Argentina's squad for the World Cup. But again, I understand that the odds are based for sure on the Champions League form, and we see clearly the difference between Leverkusen and Villarreal. But in footballing terms, I don't see that big gap between the teams. And Villarreal, probably they will show some pride to leave the competition in a much better state than they play so far. That's why Villarreal double chance 2.5 is my take.
All right, then we have Benfica, Real Madrid, Mourinho against 𝐴𝐵𝐿𝐴 on the bench. And here we have Real Madrid. They need 3 points to secure a top 8 spot, perhaps with a draw. It's enough for Los Blancos, and Benfica with 6 points, they are almost out. They need just a combination of results, but almost out. Leo, a lot of small things to analyze always that we see, the special one against Real Madrid, and now with 𝐴𝐵𝐿𝐴 on the bench. It looks like the players, the stars now want to play for 𝐴𝐵𝐿𝐴, or at least in these first games, we saw a good attitude of especially Vinicius in these games. But this Real Madrid is improving. It looks like no one wanted Xabi Alonso somehow.
Yes, it's been proven that the problem wasn't Xabi Alonso. I think it's been clear in the last 2 games. And Matchday 7 especially, Edu was a night in everything clicked again. No more boos, no more players' disapproval from the fans, clinical performance. They almost took every chance they had. Madrid, Vinicius participated in 4 of the 6 goals. Mastantuono had his best game since arriving from Argentina. Top 8 is almost confirmed. And then, as I said, on the weekend against Villarreal as well, a very good win away. And then you have Mbappé, that as we speak, the best player in the world, and he's showing a goal-scoring power, which I never thought that he had, because but now Mbappé scoring has become a routine, which is probably the highest praise you could have for a striker. Even when he looks that he's not there, absent, almost invisible, he's not. He scores. He's 34 goals this season already. It doesn't matter the context, if Madrid is playing well or not, he scored. It's just ridiculous. And 16 of the 34 goals have been in the last 2 months. In the last 11 games in all competitions, Mbappe scored 60% of all the 27 goals scored by Real Madrid. Mbappe to score on Wednesday is 1.66. I like something 𝐬𝐵𝐿𝐴 said after Villarreal in relation to playing counter-attack. He said that he can't go against his players' characteristics. And when you have players that can excel with the space like Vini, Rodrigo, Bellingham, Brahim, Mbappe, well, you must play to that tune. The Madrid of Cristiano, Bale, Benzema, and Di Maria was that. Catch me if you can in transition. Benfica want or should not be a stone in the shoes for this Real Madrid, despite all the talk about Mourinho, 𝐬𝐵𝐿𝐴 that we could have. The options are limited to get into the playoff. Against Juventus, they had some chances in the first half, but they were very, very poor in the second half. We will see the amount of chances that that 𝐬𝐵𝐿𝐴 decides for this one. The odds on Madrid, I think, are great at 1.73. But my take is a combined one. Madrid to win, combined with Mbappe to score or to assist anytime, odds of 2.5.
All right, Alain, you also see some improvement from Real Madrid. Can this last, or is just a new manager bounce?
Improvement is my focus is what is the midfielder? The midfield line is the key in this team, because with the ball and without the ball, because in attack you have a lot of solution. You have Mbappe is walking in the sky right now, and in the defense, if you have a good midfielder, defense don't suffer so much. Then Madrid after Modric, Kroos leave, that one is the problem. They don't found that quality in the key line of football, because every big team have a wonderful midfield line. And yes, maybe we saw 𝐬𝐵𝐿𝐴 choose some solution since he arrived. The good point is 3 victory in 3 games. In my opinion, the victory in Villarreal is important to win the vestry, because in Madrid you don't need to be so tactical. You must win the vestry when you are manager. And 𝐬𝐵𝐿𝐴 known the house, known Real Madrid, and he known his mission. And his mission is to be competitive until the end of the season in Champions League and in Liga. Only 1 point with Barca. In Champions League, he need to catch the points to secure to stay in the first 8. In change, Benfica, I think we start to see something about Mourinho in Juventus Stadium, because in Juventus Stadium Benfica don't deserve to lose 2-0. I think the results is a liar, because we saw a Benfica in the midfield, especially in the pressure, create a lot of problem with Juventus, create a lot of occasion, but probably it was not his best night. Since the beginning of the season, Benfica suffer at home. They win only against Napoli in a big match, and Real Madrid is really favorite. And I choose double chance 𝐻2 with over 2.5 goals, odds 1.90.
Very important also for Real Madrid to qualify in the top 8 and have 1 month entirely for La Liga. Last season, remember, they had to play the playoffs with Man City. And the last game in this video is Borussia Dortmund Inter. Remember, we have another video to analyze all the games with Tom and Ronald, so don't miss out. And this one is a very good game. Dortmund Inter 11 and 12 points, although it's very likely that both teams will go into the playoffs in February. even with big wins for Dortmund is impossible basically, and for Inter almost impossible. Inter, Alain, securing almost the Scudetto this weekend, smashing Pisa. But it's also very important, I think, for them to catch a good result in the Westfalen Stadium, because they've been losing all the important games this season. Also in the Champions League, we are seeing they cannot compete against the big teams, against Arsenal, Atletico, or Liverpool. They lost, and I wouldn't say this Dortmund is a great team, because we saw, for instance, a very poor version of them against Tottenham, but it's never easy to win in Dortmund.
No, it's never easy, and Inter is the only limit, the big match, since he is in the bench. Inzaghi suffered that problem too in Serie A, but in Champions League he is doing two final in 3 years. But in Serie A he lose some Scudetti because that problem in the biggest match, and that one still there. Now we can ask, but Dortmund is a big match. Not for the stadium, for this Borussia Dortmund.
No.
And Inter, right now, Inter need a miracle, to stay in the top 8. 5 teams are up until from the Inter. Barcelona, Manchester City, Atlético Madrid, and Atalanta, normally they will win. Inter must to win in Dortmund and dream or pray about Sporting don't win in San Mamés, and this the only combination can be qualify Inter. But they need to win in Dortmund against a team show a good reaction against Union Berlin, but Union Berlin is not a top team right now in Bundesliga. At home, we know the powder of Dortmund. Only one lose this season in Pokal against Leverkusen. Some voices about the relationship between Kovac and the fans are not so positive in Dortmund. The fans critique the mentality. They said is not the philosophy of the football of Dortmund. Is not this conservative football. We need offensive football. And maybe in Berlin we start to show something different, but they need more. Inter is in crisis. Inter have a problem with the goalkeeper, because Sommer, in my opinion, is not a goalkeeper can be qualified the team for another final in Champions League. Maybe Martinez can be played in Dortmund, but anyway, except that, I see this game with both teams to score and over 2.5 goals, odds 2.00.
Well, another final, Alain, I don't even see them in the quarterfinals this season.
Yeah, but the last season we saw that.
Yeah. It's also depends on the draw, right? Even Barcelona got to the semifinals without much difficult games, many difficult games. Leo, how do you see this last one?
I do expect goals here, yes, absolutely. And the first thing for me to say is that Burnley provided a better test to Tottenham than Dortmund in London last week. Of course, playing a Champions League at home is a different matter, as Dortmund just lost one of the past 21 home games in the Champions League, winning 13 and drawing 7. And that run includes 3 points against Chelsea, Paris Saint-Germain, Barcelona, and Atlético Madrid. Even the numbers against Italian side are good for Dortmund. They lost just one of their previous 6 games. But it's interesting to see how Inter will perform in attack against a side that so far kept the Bundesliga high of 10 clean sheets. And at home, they conceded just 6 of the 17 goals they had so far in the Bundesliga. In Tottenham, or against Tottenham, was the first time this Champions League that they did not score. With 19 goals, Dortmund only scored 1 less than Bayern, that Arsenal and PSG. But Inter is at the back of a goal-scoring feast against Pisa in a game which threatened to become a huge upset when they were down 2-0 in the first 30 minutes. But Esposito had another very good game, scoring 1 and assisting another. Lautaro reached 12 goals in Serie A this season. Boni joined the party at the end. It's a must-win for both if they want to dream with the top 8 finish, of course. This will become another test for 𝐬𝐭𝐴 in a big game, although I agree with that view of like, if it's Dortmund or not a big game, and I'm more inclined to think that they are not. But he needs a big statement anyway, 𝐬𝐭𝐴. That's true. We have been talking about that all season. Against Arsenal, they had good moments, but I never got the feeling that they were the better side. Something that Dortmund and Inter have in common is that they have many players with a good connection with goals. Inter is not just Lautaro, but Thuram, Boni, and also their midfielders. And for Dortmund, 10 different players have scored in 7 games this league stage. That's what my take here is goals over 2.5, odds of 1.73.
This is a very good game, and our smart bet is going for 1x. Double chance for Dortmund, 1.57. Very likely we are going to see these two teams in the playoffs in February. Well, guys, this is it for our video because Leo and Alain have better things to do. They cannot analyze all the games. There are just too many. So, of course, let me know, guys, what do you think about the games, who are going to qualify for the top 8. And remember that you can post your own tips in Oddspedia and participate in our tipster competitions. And also, we have rivals for you where you can create your own tipster competition. Alain, your safe bet?
Monaco Juve, double chance 𝐿2, odds 1.35.
Leo?
Arsenal half-time, full-time, 1.30.
And the ACCA, Alain?
Benfica Madrid, double chance 𝐿2, over 2.5 goals. Leverkusen Villarreal, double chance 1x, both team to score. And Dortmund Inter, both team to score with over 2.5 goals for a total 7.16.
Very high odds. Indeed. Leo, yours?
The first one in my ACCA is a combined one, Arsenal to win 2-0, with Arsenal half-time, full-time, 𝐿𝐵appe to score, and in Dortmund, Inter goals over 2.5. These three together, odds of 5.6.
Thank you, Leo. Thank you, Alain. See you. Bye-bye.